All right, let's get right into it. We hear it all the time, right? Building wealth takes time. But what does that actually mean? How long are we really talking about? A few months? A few years? Or are we looking at decades? Most people don't quit because building wealth is impossible. They quit because nobody ever sat them down and explained the real timeline.
And this is the question that really frustrates so many of us. We start a new plan, we're all in, we stick to it for a little while, but then the results don't show up when we think they should. And we get discouraged and just stop. But what if the problem isn't our plan at all? What if the real problem is the imaginary schedule we've cooked up in our own heads?
So, to get some actual answers, we're going to dig into the Motilal Oswal 30th Annual Wealth Creation Study. I mean, for 3 decades, these guys have been analyzing how wealth is really built in the markets. And their findings? Well, they give us a much clearer picture of the kind of timeline we should actually be thinking about.
Okay, so first things first. We have to tackle the biggest myth out there, the whole overnight success story. It's the main reason our expectations are just so completely out of whack with reality.
Now, this is what I find so fascinating. We see the myth, right? The sudden breakthrough, the moment somebody makes it big. But what we don't see is what's really going on behind the curtain, the years of quiet, painstaking preparation. We hear stories about fast money, but we never see the invisible, consistent, and frankly boring effort that went into it. The truth is, wealth only looks sudden when you're looking backward.
And this is the point that changes everything. Most of us give up not because the goal is impossible, but because our internal clock is set for a 100-meter dash when what we're actually running is a marathon. Our expectation of speed, that's the real enemy of our progress.
Which brings us to the real engine of building wealth, compounding.
But here's the catch. It's also the very thing that makes the start of this journey feel so incredibly slow, so frustrating, and let's be honest, kind of pointless. This quote from the study really gets to the core of it. The legendary Charlie Munger knew that compounding is basically a superpower, but he also knew that it's hard. It's incredibly powerful, but its power is almost invisible, especially at the beginning.
This is what we call the foundation phase, and it's tough. Your savings feel like a drop in a giant bucket. Your investments barely seem to move at all. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. It's the boring part. There's no applause, no one's patting you on the back. But on the inside, under the surface, crucial growth is happening. You're laying the groundwork, one brick at a time. It doesn't look impressive, but literally everything depends on this phase.
And this chart shows you exactly why. See, wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It's more like flat, 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 and then all of a sudden, it goes steep. For instance, after 5 years, your investment might have grown a bit. It's nice, but it's not changing your life. But then you fast forward to year 15 or 20, and that same investment is suddenly growing by that same amount in a single year. It's the same process, but the scale just explodes. The problem is, most people quit during the flat part, long before they ever get to see that amazing climb.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this actually play out in the real world with real companies and real data? The study didn't just talk about compounding in the abstract. It went looking for the companies that actually delivered this kind of growth. And it turns out they're incredibly rare.
So first, let's be super clear on what we're looking for. The study calls these companies compounders. And a compounder is just a high-quality company that you can own for a long time. We're talking 10 years plus, letting that snowball effect of returns generating more returns really get going. It's all about having the discipline to ignore the short-term noise.
All right, here it is, the punchline. The study looked at the top 500 companies over a 17-year period. Now, out of those 500 major companies, how many do you think turned out to be these true quality long-term compounders? Just 21. That is barely 4%. So real sustained wealth creation isn't just a matter of having patience, it's genuinely statistically rare.
So, if finding these things is rare, and the whole process takes a really long time, what's the right way to think about it? The key is to shift our focus completely. Forget about speed. It's all about longevity. It's about having staying power. And this slide gives us a much more realistic way to look at the journey. Think about it in phases. The first 3 years or so, that's the learning and setup phase. You're figuring out how money works, you're building good habits. The progress is small, and honestly, it's pretty boring. Then, around years 4 to 7, you hit the momentum phase. This is when compounding starts to become visible. Your confidence goes up because you can actually see the system is working. And then, somewhere after year 8, you enter the acceleration phase. Growth feels faster, and the money your assets are making starts to outpace the money you're putting in. Wealth isn't built in months, it's built step by step through these phases.
This is the question that sets us all up to fail. It's all about the destination, with zero respect for the journey. It's a question that demands speed. It encourages you to chase the latest hot trend, and it makes people jump from strategy to strategy so often that compounding never, ever gets a chance to do its thing.
Now, here's the reframe. This is the question we should be asking ourselves. Can I stay consistent long enough? It puts all the focus on the process, where it belongs. It's an admission that time is the most important ingredient, and that every single time you restart, you reset that compounding clock right back to zero. Consistency is so much more important than intelligence.
And this really is the biggest takeaway of all. Most people don't actually fail with their money. They just quit too soon. But once you truly understand the real timeline, the whole experience just shifts. Those early years of slow, boring progress are no longer signs that you're failing. Waiting doesn't feel like a setback anymore. Waiting is the process. Waiting starts to feel like progress.
So, if we know deep down that patience and consistency are the keys to the whole thing, it leads to one big question: why is it so incredibly hard to actually do it? Well, we're going to dive into that very question in our next explainer.